Hello, hello, hello. I hope today you're gonna find some answers, because I think what most ex-Jehovah's Witnesses find out the moment they leave is they're not finding out more answers, they're finding out that they have more and more questions. And for every answer that you find, there is another 10 questions that will pop almost immediately. And the more answers you're getting, the more questions you have. But most of the questions for extrovert witnesses are very repetitive. So I'm going to attack 10 most asked questions by extrovert witnesses, and I will give you my perspective. Hopefully, you will find some value in them. So the first one: how can I rebuild my identity after leaving the organization? Now, as you know, identity is a huge part of being a Jehovah's Witness, because you identify yourself as a witness. Where this becomes much deeper than any other identity that people put on themselves, like I'm being a husband or a father or an electrician or I don't know, a friend, is that when you become a Jehovah's Witness, you're almost like you're working for somebody else 24/7. What I mean by that is, if you, let's say, are an electrician, right? You go to work, you might identify as one. Somebody asks you, well, what's your profession? You'll say, I am an electrician. You identify as this is one of your um, identities. And they'll know exactly what is your expertise. They expect you to have a certain knowledge and skills according to how you identify yourself. But that doesn't mean that when you go somewhere else and you see wires hanging off the wall, that it is your obligation to go and tell people, hey, your wiring is wrong. It's like, no, I go and work from 9 to 5 or whatever, and this is where I do my job. And if somebody else chooses something else and wire his own house without following the code, that's their problem. But Jehovah's Witnesses, it's like you're putting this identity that you have to become a witness 24/7. So it's very strongly in them that it's not just, oh, when they're at the meeting, it's not just when they're going door to door, it's 24/7 you are a witness. And when they lose this, very often they don't know what to do with themselves. Very often, people who grew up in this environment, they have a really hard time defining who they are, because not only they define who they are as a witness, and almost every decision they have ever made was going through that filter, but at the same time, it was part of something that they were teaching others. So if you know anything about that, if the moment you start teaching somebody else, it becomes in the deepest part of our brain. It's like, okay, this is where I represent, and this is how it must be. Because the moment you start teaching, it's like you represent what you're teaching. That's what makes a difference between Jehovah's Witnesses and people in other religion. Because people in other religion, they might listen to the priest or rabbi or whatever, and they agree with 90%, 80%, 50% of what they hear, and they have their own opinion and their own life as though they're doing this or that. And Jehovah's Witnesses can't do that. They can't, because they teach. And if they teach, they have to have a freedom of speech. They gotta have, like they gotta feel like whatever they're saying, they also live by it. They cannot say, well, I agree with 99%, but 1% I don't agree with. The holidays, right? Like birthdays, I don't see anything wrong with birthdays. I think we should celebrate birthdays, right? There is Women's Day, there is Mother's Day, and they might feel like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I'll celebrate Mother's Day. That's my choice. No, they can't. It's like everything or nothing. Why? Because when they go to door and people will ask them questions, they have to answer with clean conscience. They cannot say, oh, you're not allowed to celebrate birthdays, but I will. That is why it's such a big deal. When they lose this identity, they feel like, well, if I'm not a witness, who am I? What else is out there? So it is a really big deal for them. And in order to cure this, you have to remember that you have more than one identity. You have more than one. As a witness, you only had one. At least that's what you were taught. that you had only one identity, and wherever you go, whatever decision you make, who to marry, whether to go to school or not, whether you want a beer or not, how you're going to look, who you're going to talk to, who's going to be your friend, was always through the filter of what the society says and expects of you. But now you get to decide for yourself. You choose what you want to do in life, and at the same time, you remember you have more than one identity. You, like, for example, me, I am a husband, I am a father, I am a brother, I am a son, I'm also an employer, I am also a pilot, I am also a friend. You have more than one identity. Whatever you put after I am, it becomes your identity of who you are as a person. You don't have just one, you have many. And depending on who's standing in front of you, your identity will change. I talk differently to my wife than I talk to my employees. I talk differently to my customers as I talk to my children, because I am a different person for the person who's standing in front of me. And remember that. So when you think about, oh, I lost my identity, no, you lost one of many identities that you had. And it's good that you lost that one, because of that one identity that they gave you, everything else was affected by it. Now you get to work on all the other identities a little bit better. So now, instead of, oh, let's say I'm a husband, and as a husband, I had to have my wife in subjection, my kids in subjection, or whatever, right? Like, as a head of the family. And there were glasses from Watchtower that I was wearing, and I viewed myself as a husband through that, those glasses of, okay, what is the Watchtower requiring of me in order to be a good husband? And through their glasses, I'm like, okay, I have to study with my wife, I have to make sure I'm a good I'm a good head for her spiritually, and so on and on, right? So that's how I would measure myself. Now it's totally different. Now when I think about, oh, okay, what is my identity as a husband, and think of how I could be the best partner for her, how I can be a provider and protector and a friend to her and a lover at the same time. And I think of those things, of how I can fill her needs in order to be the best husband I can possibly be. I do the same thing with my kids. It's no longer, okay, headship, and I have to bring them spiritually, and bring them to the meetings and train them what to say at the door. That is not a priority. My priority is, yes, protect and provide for my kids, but also to teach them, to train them, to prepare them for future, to share my knowledge and my skills and my experience, so they will grow into independent people until they say, I don't need you anymore, I can become a person, independent, and I want to spend time with you, obviously, but I no longer need you to survive, right? And they become independent, they grow out of the state of being children. So go through your identities that you have and figure it out, who you can be for different people the best you can. And you have more than one identity, and you have more than one purpose in life also, and you get to choose what that is. You don't have to follow what they told you. So that is a huge realization. It's not like, okay, you only had this one thing, you lost it. No, you have many, and now you have to grow it. You have to make it bigger, you have to make it more powerful, and yeah, more, expand your identity, not just limit yourself to one, right? Okay, next one. Why do I feel fear or guilt even though I know it's not true anymore? You have to remember that our mind, our subconscious mind, does not know what is right and wrong. Our subconscious mind is trained. It's trained like a dog, right? It doesn't think logically. It just reacts to what is around you. How you trained your subconscious mind, that's how it's gonna give you the reaction. And your subconscious mind is basically trained through repetition and through emotional events. So if you repeat something over and over and over again, your subconscious mind will say, okay, if I hear this trigger and I hear that trigger and I get this signal or that signal, I will reply with these emotions. Okay, so as a Jehovah's Witness, maybe you were growing up, you heard, for example, national anthem, and you're like, oh my God, everybody's standing up, and I'm the only one that will not stand up, and nobody knows I'm a witness. This is going to be embarrassing. And maybe you put yourself in these kind of situations and you felt like, oh my God, right? And it's been a very uncomfortable situation. And because of those situations, in your brain, there are synapses, right? They're connecting. If it's very low emotions, then you got like few synapses connected. If it's high emotions, there is more synapses until it's like trauma is like huge amount of synapses connected, and you have those connections. So if you hear something or you experiencing something that reminds you of a specific event, automatically your subconscious mind will give you a specific emotion, and it takes time to rewire your brain. Don't think that, oh, okay, just because cognitively I understand that this is okay, but your subconscious mind doesn't know that yet. So when the first time I was celebrating birthday and I created a birthday for my child, intellectually I knew there was nothing wrong with it, but my body was shaking. My nervous system was telling me something's wrong here. For all those decades, you've been telling me that this is evil. You have to protect yourself from it, stay away from it. And now you're doing it yourself. I don't have this wiring yet. So I'm just giving you the wiring you gave me before. And it takes a while, okay, for your subconscious mind to actually accept this, that it is fine now. It's okay to watch this movie. It's okay to have a birthday cake. It's okay to celebrate holidays. It's okay to spend time with worldly people. It's okay to have friends, outside. It's okay to read anything that you might even agree or disagree with and talk to apostates or whatever. It's okay. You might have initially that feeling, but believe me, the more you do it, the more it will fade. Do what you fear, and fear will disappear. But the wiring is there, and you have to just acknowledge, accept it. It's like, okay, I get it. I understand why you're sending me those signals. I understand why I'm getting nervous, why I'm getting this anxiety. I get it. But don't worry, it is safe, and I'm okay. I'll be okay. This is something new. I'm just curious about this. It will be fun. And you do it, and you do it, and you do it. And then one day you're like, I don't even understand why I was scared of it. But the wiring is there. It will take time. You can speed up that time with therapy and help from other people who know what they're doing. But believe me, it's not going to be a one conversation. Usually it takes few years, 2, 3, sometimes 5 years to get rid of it, depending on whether you reach out for help or not, and whether you were born in it or not, or how long you were a witness. So it's different for everybody. Number 3, how do I deal with being shunned by my family and friends? Well, shunning, of course, is one of the most painful experiences that ex-Jehovah's Witnesses have to deal with, especially if the shunning comes from your children, your parents, your siblings, people who are very close to your friends, and very often also from your spouse. So what happens quite often is if one person stops believing, the other will start protecting themselves because they're fearful that this person will influence their faith, and they're shutting down. Not only they're don't want to discuss about the religion, but they're so afraid that they basically separating themselves. And unfortunately, many marriages did not survive this and broke off. How do you help with this? How do you fight with loneliness and depression? Maybe. Well, I'll tell you this: if you are a PMO, if you are physically in and mentally out, that means you have time before you completely cut off this organization, and they will cut you off eventually. You have time to build your social network. So don't wait. Okay. Make sure that you start having friends outside of the organization. And you might say, well, but they don't understand me. They don't understand what I'm going through. Fine. connect with some ex Jehovah's Witnesses, connect with some PIMOs. There's tons of them on the internet. There's lots of Facebook groups. I encourage you to reach out to them. But choose your friends wisely, because sometimes you can get down that rabbit hole, and there's a lot of negative people on the internet that just want to vent and tell you all the negative stuff. And you can go down the rabbit hole and you will find, okay, I get it. I understand why Jehovah's Witnesses are not the true religion and so on, but there is nothing I'm building. There's nothing to look forward to. There's nothing that pulls me towards a better future. It's just, reminding me of where I was cheated and what they said wrong and how they lied to me. That's nothing that I need this for a short period of time to know why I don't believe this anymore. But in the long term, it can be quite draining. So make sure that you start building your friendships outside. You reach out to family members who are not witnesses. You reach out to your friends, neighbors, people who are even online. Ask yourself, who would you be if you were never a witness? Who is there any passion? Is there anything that interests you outside of the religion? And then you can find there's tons of groups and meetups, sometimes in your neighborhood or online, of people who have these interests, and you can gain friendships there. But sometimes you don't have to look far. Look for commonality. What is it that you love doing, and what is it that somebody else loves doing? And you will find, once you have that social network, you will see that, you know what, these people, they love me more, they care about me more, I can be myself more. And that one day you will no longer need Jehovah's Witnesses. If the transition was sudden, so you got this fellowship or you wrote the letter, and from one day to the next, everybody's gone, that is usually very traumatic. But to be honest, sometimes it is more traumatic, but you will heal faster. What I mean by that is, if you're a PIMO, very often that drags, because you're just like, okay, well, another meeting, it's just one more meeting, one more week, one more month, and then a year or two goes by and you're still connected with these people, and it still took you quite a long time to say, okay, enough is enough. Those who were disfellowshipped or cut it off by writing a letter, they can start healing right away. I strongly recommend reaching out to therapists or coaches or people who know what they're doing, and reach out to them so you can heal faster. But at the same time, you will no longer have to watch over your shoulder. Oh, what is it that they know about me? Are they following me? Are they gonna find out that I'm celebrating birthday or Christmas or so on? No, you close this book behind you. You look forward, and you start building your life fresh. That doesn't mean you're starting from scratch. Often people say, "Oh no, I lost everything." No, you didn't lose everything. You have an enormous amount of knowledge, skills, and experience, and lots of assets. Then you just feel like, oh well, it's, my life would have been different if I were never at JW. That's true. Maybe it would have been different, but maybe it would have been worse. You don't know. There's tons of people your age who were never witnesses, and their life is much worse than yours. So you don't know how your life would have been if you were not a Jehovah's Witness. So you cannot say that it would have been better. Maybe it would have been. Maybe you would have ended up being much worse. You will never know. And it doesn't matter if you know or not. What matters is, what is it that you're going to do with the rest of your life? And because time is precious, and now you know that you will die, do not waste your time on looking backwards of what the Watchtower has done wrong, because that just takes away of your precious minutes from your life that you could spend on something that it's truly remarkable. Okay, next one. Was it really a cult? Well, every Jehovah's Witness will say, no, we're not a cult. Every ex-Jehovah's Witness will say, well, of course it was a cult. So why such a debate? Why such a different, strong points of view? Well, in order to determine whether an organization is a cult or not, we would have to agree first on the frame of reference. We would have to agree on a specific criteria, what it takes to be a cult. And I think Jehovah's Witnesses meet a lot of that criteria, but not all of it. So looking at what they teach, looking at the damage that they cause with the policies of disfellowshipping or prohibition of blood transfusions, you could make a very strong argument that it is a cult. I think a lot of people using this word a little bit too much. They're using this word because they want to downgrade that religion and say, oh, you know what, these people are a cult, and then therefore they're all bad, and just they put them all in one basket, which I think is oversimplification of what is truly going on. Jehovah's Witnesses, they are a registered religion, yes, there are many of them, but they are what we call a high control group. That's the expression I prefer to use, because when I use the word cult, it just kind of feels dirty. But I do feel that if you actually look at the criteria for cults, Jehovah's Witnesses would meet, I think, most of them, but not all of them. And this is where they say, oh, we don't have one leader that we all want to be like him, and he doesn't take all our money. He's not super rich, and we all working for him, which a lot of cults do. We do not live in a compound, with closed gates, and we're closing people from seeing the outside world, and we're not demanding that they're all, following this one leader, and whatever he says, it's true. They are cults like that. There are a lot more dangerous cults, and a lot more controlling groups than Jehovah's Witnesses. No doubt about it. But that comparison is also kind of misleading, because I would say if there are two people and one is stealing chocolate bar from a grocery store and another one murdered somebody, well, they're both broke a law, and you can both say they're both criminals, but they're not the same type of criminals, right? So one would be a really bad murderer criminal, while the other one is a petty thief. So just because Jehovah's Witnesses are not super controlling, but they're still controlling, right? So that comparisons of, oh, somebody's worse than us, therefore we're not a cult. No, it doesn't really work that way. So you look at the qualifications or categories for cults, you do a test and you will see. I did that test. I just Googled. Check if you are in a cult. And as a Jehovah's Witness, I did this because I believed that I'm not. I believed that I'm like, no. I do this test. I will prove to them that I'm not in the cult simply by doing this test. And I went on this test, and I'm going like, yes. Oh my God. And I scored like, I think it was 77 out of 100, right? So it wasn't 100, but it was like 77. And if you scored more than 75%, it says you are in a dangerous, highly controlled organization. You need professional help in order to get out of it. And I was like, what? Me? No way. I couldn't believe it. So most Jehovah's Witnesses will never acknowledge this because they simply don't believe it. Neither did I. Nobody who is in the cult believes they're in a cult, and nobody who is controlled believes that they're controlled. Nobody who's being manipulated believes that they are being manipulated. Nobody. The moment you actually see you're being manipulated, you step back. You realize, oh, no, somebody's trying to push something here, right? And then you step back. But if you are under the influence, right, we call it undue influence, then you don't know that you are under it. You have no idea. If you knew, you would walk out. So, yeah, I would say study cults. Great book for this. Stephen Hassan, Combating Cult Mind Control. He does mention Jehovah's Witnesses over here, although he was never a Jehovah's Witness. He was in the Moonies. That's how he looks, right? I did an interview with him. He's on my channel if you want to see. Really nice guy. Okay, next one. How do I explain my past to new people without feeling ashamed? Well, it is kind of challenging. Many people feel like, oh, you know what? If I have new friends and I tell them I used to be a Jehovah's Witness, I'm actually afraid of telling them because they might react in a certain way. And I'm afraid of that reaction. Well, truthfully, you should own it, because I tell you what happens. Very often people are in a cult without realizing they're in a cult, not religious cult, but the cult is usually in their family, and they don't realize that. They living with a very abusive or very controlling spouse, whether it's a wife or a husband. And sometimes you expressing your feelings how it was getting out of it, it's exactly the same feelings they feel at home, because they come home and they're afraid, let's say, of a wife's reaction. So the guy is coming home, he's like, oh, I don't even want to go home because if I go home, she's gonna be complaining. Where you left the sweater? Where are my shoes? Where are this? Are you supposed to buy eggs? You forgot again, and you're supposed to spend time with kids, and homework is piling up, and you're not doing this, you're not doing that, and then you're like, just okay, just yes, honey, yes, honey, yes, honey, just becoming this people pleaser, right? Just to make sure that the happy wife is happy life, right? And they don't even realize that they're in a cult, and there's one person controlling them all the time, and they cannot be themselves. They cannot live a happy, authentic life because they're constantly worried about what this other person will say and react. And when you give them that background of what it was like to be a Jehovah's Witness, not only you protecting them from becoming one, but you also helping them to understand the concept. And you'll be shocked how quickly people actually can relate to what you're saying and say, oh, you know what? I felt exactly the same at my work. I had no voice. I had to submit to my boss, and I felt this pressure. And even though I wanted to quit, I felt I was trapped, and so on. And they can relate to you actually quite well if you express your feelings. And if they see that you were able to overcome it and get out of it, it might give them that strength to say, you know what, I'm going to set up my boundaries too. So don't be afraid of sharing your story. It is a story of triumph, nothing to be ashamed of. As a matter of fact, it's something to be proud of. Is it wrong to celebrate birthdays or holidays now? Whatever it is that you choose to do, remember, it's up to you now. You decide in your life what is that you want to do. You don't have to do everything opposite. Sometimes Jehovah's Witnesses, when they leave, do whatever was prohibited, they're going to do. They feel like, oh, nobody's going to tell me what to do. And they say, okay, whatever Jehovah's Witnesses said was wrong, we're going to do this now, right? Very often that comes with consequences. So celebrating holidays, you choose whatever you want to celebrate. You want to celebrate Christmas? Go ahead. You want to celebrate birthday? Go ahead. You want to celebrate Hanukkah? Whatever it is up to you. You don't have to follow everything that the world is doing. You get to choose. But like I said, there are some consequences to, well, maybe not holidays, but maybe somebody says, oh, they told me not to smoke. I'm going to start smoking now. Well, that could be a downfall for you. Or maybe you're going to start over drinking because of all the trauma that is happening. And maybe you found alcohol to be something that will help you to get over this edge. And then you realize, oh, you know what? I became addicted to it, which is a very, very difficult habit to break. So just because something was first prohibited and now you feel like, oh, this is allowed, that doesn't mean you have to do it. Use your common sense, use your thinking. What is it good for you? Now, instead of thinking, is this a sin? Now you got to start thinking, is this harmful? Is it harmful to in my life? Is it harmful for others? And if the answer is no, it's not harmful for me, it's not harmful for others, then all what it is a matter of your personal opinion. And then you do whatever you choose. Why do I feel angry or betrayed? Well, those are the emotions that are usually attached with breakups. Like you have a partner, you used to love them, you were crazy about them, you thought you're going to live and die together. And all of a sudden, you find out they cheated on you. And you're like, oh, if you were not angry, if you were just like, oh, okay, no problem, something's wrong with you. But because you're feeling those emotions, it means your nervous system is working correctly. It should be. You should be angry. You should be sad. You should mourn. That means you are not a psychopath. It means you are a person with working brain and emotions. Because when somebody comes up to you and says, oh, you know what, your mother died. And you're like, oh, yeah, okay, too bad. What's for dinner? Something's seriously wrong with you. But if you are shocked, if you are sad, if you're even angry at the situation, that means your nervous system is working. So don't be mad at your nervous system. You will fade away, but this is a huge traumatic experience for your nervous system, and it will take time to get over it. But you're feeling angry every time. Think about it. Sometimes you were angry at yourself, weren't you? Yeah, we all are. Why are we angry? Were you angry because a rule was broken? If we set up a rule and somebody breaks that rule, we're angry at them. We tell them, "Hey, listen, I'm telling you this, but I'm telling you only this, and I'm trusting that you will never tell this to anybody else." And then you hear it from someone else. They broke that rule. What happens? You're automatically angry at them because you made sure they understand how important it is that this doesn't go anywhere else. It was private. They broke your rule. And this is why you're angry. That's what happens. We're angry when we break a rule. When somebody breaks a rule, or we angry at ourselves because we promised ourselves never again a donut, and that was such a nice donut with whipped cream on top. And I'm on a diet. And then you break your rule and you're like, oh, I'm angry at myself. Anger is normal. It's good to be angry, because when you're angry, it means something is wrong. Something has to be done. You need that feeling of certainty that, you know what, enough is enough. I can't sit here anymore. I need to move away from this, or at least close the chapter. Right? So anger is neither good or bad. It's needed. If you find out that your spouse is cheating at you, guess what? You have a right to be angry, and don't apologize for it. If you find out that the governing body has not been honest with you and you invested a lot of time, money, and effort into something that turned out to be false, you feel cheated. You feel like, you know what, my lives were stolen, my time was stolen. You feel angry, and rightly so, because maybe you believe that millions today living will never die, and you thought you're never going to die, and guess what? Boom. Yeah, you realized it's inevitable. So don't don't suppress those emotions, okay? But at the same time, don't express them in such a way that are hurtful to others. Feel it, go through it, understand that it was actually good to feel those emotions. Those emotions gave you the strength to move away from something that was harmful, and you never want to go back there. If you didn't care, you would have still been there. You would have still stayed there, and you would still tolerate all the stuff that is happening, because, like, well, it doesn't matter to me. Well, they're covering pedophiles. Who cares, right? Oh, the blood transfusion doctrine is wrong. Who cares, right? Their this fellowshipping thing is harming people. Who cares, right? Like, if you ignorant to those things, well, not ignorant, but if you're passive about those things, they don't make you angry, then you would still be there, because you would not have the energy to leave. So if you felt angry, if you felt betrayed, that means your nervous system is working. You had the right to feel this way. Just don't stay there. It's normal to feel it for a short period of time. But if you're staying there 6 months, a year, or 2, or 5, or 10, it's destroying your life. You're not doing anything to change them. It will actually change you. So a short period of time is understandable. You got to go through this anger. You got to go through sadness. You got to go through grief, because you're going to lose a whole bunch of friends, family, a whole bunch of future that you imagined, right? It's going to be altered. But that doesn't mean that your life is over. It means it's going through a transition. And the moment you realize that your future is better without them, and they're still there, they're still the victims of victims. They're still going to service. They're still believing this. They're still studying all those articles. They're still wasting their time and life. You start feeling actually sorry for them instead of feeling angry at them. If you see that they actually have good intentions, although the results are different, but the intent is good. They actually believe that the end of the world is coming. They believe that the paradise is going to be here. They believe Armageddon is around the corner, and they're trying to help you not to die. And they want you to live with them forever on paradise earth. So the intent is pure. If you look at people's intent, your anger will melt. Okay. Next. Number 8, how can I find a supportive community and people who understand me? Obviously, ex Jehovah's Witnesses will understand you. And you might go to a therapist. I recommend a therapist who is an ex Jehovah's Witness. And there's lots of them. Lots of them. If you cannot find them, contact me. I will send you to some because they will have a deeper understanding of what you're going through. Many people said that they're going to a therapist and they're spending a lot of time and money simply explaining what they went through for hours on end, and the therapist is like, "What are you talking about? I don't get it." But if you're talking to a pet therapist who is an ex Jehovah's Witness, then I guarantee you they will understand exactly what you're talking about. There is great support groups. There's ex Jehovah's Witnesses, Empowered Minds, which I'm part of. I strongly encourage you to be part of it. There will be also um, conference in January 10th and 11th, I believe, in Vegas. Look it up. It is a wonderful event. Enormous help for XJWs to help moving forward. I'll be there too. Please look up. There's plenty of help. Today is just a matter of clicking, and you're gonna get somebody who will be willing to help. So there is no such thing as, oh, I'm alone and nobody wants to help me. There is hundreds of people that are willing to spend time and energy to help you for free. So reach out for help. Can I still believe in God or have spirituality without religion? That it becomes right now very personal. Of course, you can believe in God, but at the same time, don't think that belief is something that you're going to choose. Faith is not something we choose. That's what a lot of people think, especially Christians, uh, including Jehovah's Witnesses, who say, well, just believe. Well, you can't. You cannot unlearn things. That's one. But our mind simply accepts something as true or not. Two people can be exposed to exactly the same evidence. And one person will say, I believe it. The other one will say, no, that does not convince me. And this is why we have so many different religions and so many different beliefs, even though we have the same books, the same evidence, and we're all examining this differently. Our mind will simply decide whether it will accept something as true or not. Our subconscious mind will make that decision, not you. Consciously, you will choose what to focus on, you will choose how to educate yourself, but whether you accept this as truth or not, it's a different story. I think the great example of this is those flat earthers. People start looking at certain things, and even though they first believed that the earth is sphere, they educated themselves in a different manner and they stopped believing this. They changed their beliefs. Now, another person will say they're crazy, right? And you can see countless debates on YouTube between those flat earthers and those who believe in sphere. And unless you come up with a new way of determining what is truth, it will be very difficult for you to establish what you accept as true or not. Because previously, as a Jehovah's Witness, it was very easy. We are in the truth. The religion is truth. I left the truth. I became part of the truth, right? I found out the truth about the truth. We use that word a lot. But truthfully, that harm does a lot because the moment you accept something as truth, you stop thinking, right? Like if you accept 2 + 2 is 4, you're no longer questioning this. You know it's true. It was true 1,000 years ago. Well, you will be true 1,000 years from now. It's objective truth. But there is something called personal truth, something that you are personally convinced that it is real, but it doesn't mean that it is. I think most of us, when we were leaving Jehovah's Witnesses, came through this process of deprogramming of, you know what, I was delusional. I believed something very strongly that it is true. Then I learned something new. I learned new evidence. I was exposed to new information and my mind shifted. And some of you Some of you realized, oh, you know what? I can believe something very strongly, be convinced of it, be willing to die for it, and then later on change my mind. So remember, whatever is today that you believe strongly, sometimes all what it is your personal belief. And belief, what belief is, it's nothing else than a feeling. It's a feeling of certainty about specific matter. That's all what it is. And our feelings change. Our feelings change because we are exposed to more and more information. And whatever it is that you're believing today, trust me, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you're going to look back. It's like, whoa, holy crap. How come I believe that back in the day? I think most of us would feel that, oh, you know what? It is we're just part of a process. We're all trying to figure it out, what is right, what is wrong. But establishing that criteria of what I'm going to accept as truth is critical, because now, especially now, when AI is taking over the internet, you no longer know what's real. You no longer can check. Previously, it was like, okay, we have a video of this, we have a picture of this, therefore we can verify if something is true or not. Not anymore, because you will not be able to see a difference between a real picture or a made up picture by AI, or a video. You will not be able to see it. Now you can kind of see it, but I was already tricked. I already like, whoa, this is crazy. I'm like, eh, this guy has four fingers, right? There's tiny little imperfections, and then you realize, oh, it's AI. But very soon we will not be able to see the difference. And our mind works like this: we believe everything to be true unless we have a reason to doubt it. If we don't have a reason to doubt it, we will accept it as truth. That's how our mind works. The problem is now the things are changing. So now you're going to have to probably reverse this. You're going to have to say, okay, I'm seeing this, I'm hearing this, but I cannot accept it as truth. I need more than one resource to verify if this is real or not. So we're going to have to become a lot more skeptical about what we're experiencing in life, because we could be fooled. Okay. Uh, Going back to believing in God, it it will not be your decision. You can choose what you educate yourself on. Uh, Personally, I thought first that, okay, when I became critical of the beliefs of Jehovah's Witnesses, I lost my faith in that religion. I turned my faith to God and said, okay, there is no channel of communication; just got to be me and Christ and God, and that channel has to be direct. And I immersed myself in the Bible. I'm like, I'm gonna read the Bible, pray for Holy Spirit, and I'm gonna hopefully get this relationship going. And at the beginning, I did. But the more and more I study about the Bible, the more I study about history, about who wrote the Bible when, and read it with critical mind, the Bible turned me into an atheist. I'm like, there is no way that God exists. The God that is written in the Bible does not exist. Now, well, I couldn't accept that God, especially reading the Old Testament and the cruelty that is there. I couldn't accept this. Uh, but that was simply me. That doesn't mean it's going to happen to you. I was just reading and reading, and I'm like, I cannot accept this. More and more knowledge turned me, actually, Bible turned me away from the God that is written in the Bible. Now, there was obviously a question: does God exist? That's much deeper question. And I think in order to answer that question, first we would have to define who God is. And the definition of God changes from one person to another. So I'm not going to discuss this right now, because that in itself could be a 2-3 hour talk. But ask yourself, why do you believe it? Whatever it is, whether you believe in the God from the Bible or Jesus, or whether you believe in some, I don't know, chakras, or whether you believe in some energies, ask yourself, why do you believe it? And then do a test. Do a test. See if what you believe in is repeatable, measurable, and whether you can experience it with your five senses. So when I believed in God, I thought God answers prayers. So ask God something in the prayer, and then check if it works, and then ask a wall, not a God, a very different question, and see if you get an answer for that question. And then you'll find very often, like I actually did this test for, I think, for a month. I was praying for a specific answer to God, and I didn't get the answer. And then I was just asking a different question in my head without praying, and I got the answer. I can very easily say, "Oh, God answered that question," right? Because that's what usually happens when people say, "Well, I asked the question in the prayer, and then I found the answer because a neighbor or somebody gave me the answer." And it's called RTS, reticularly activating system. That is something in your subconscious mind that when you ask a question, your brain will keep looking for an answer. And if you find the answer, and if you believe in God, very often you will link that with, oh, that was an answer from God, right? If you believe in a different God, you will believe that, oh, Allah gave me that answer, or Vishnu, or Shiva, or whatever God that you believe in. And in every religion, people have the same pattern. I'm not saying God does not exist. I cannot prove that he doesn't exist. But at the same time, in order to accept that, what kind of test would you do? What kind of evidence would you bring? What convinces you that it's real, that it's not just in your imagination because somebody taught you this? So ask yourself critical questions, and maybe you'll come up to a different answer, and things will change. Maybe you believe it today, maybe you will not believe it tomorrow. Things will change because your mind will choose for you. Faith is not something we can just borrow or buy or convince ourselves. Do a test. Convince yourself to believe in the God you don't believe in. Let's say Allah or Shiva for a week, for 10 minutes. Can you? Can you convince yourself to believe in a God you don't believe in? I doubt that. But there are millions of other people who actually believe it. Why? Why do they believe it and you don't? What if they tell you, well, believe it just in case? We don't want you to go to hell, so you have to believe in Allah, accept Muhammad as a true prophet, and you will escape hell. And you're like, I can't just do it just in case because it doesn't convince me, right? It's not up to you. Last one. How do I help my loved ones who are still inside without pushing them away? Ooh, I think it's one of the hardest questions. Maybe I should have started with that one. How do you talk to your loved ones? Well, I tried. I tell you what I did wrong. I was very emotional. So a lot of stuff I said in anger, although I was trying to calm myself, but it still came out with, at the beginning you're very calm and you're like, okay, and then after a while, like, are you blind? So emotions can get pretty high. I was saying too much. So with Jehovah's Witnesses, usually you have to choose one topic and drill deep, 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 instead of jumping from one topic to another, to another, to another. You have to talk to them one-on-one. Never talk to two witnesses or more. I made a mistake. I talked to my 3 sisters and 3 brothers-in-law all at the same time, and they're all elders and pioneers, hoping that they're going to understand. No, you can't do that. There's something called group thinking, and even if any of them started questioning things in their head, they will not admit it because there's another witness sitting there and they will watch them. So you always talk one-on-one. I also would say that you should never try to get people out. That's not your role. See, as witnesses, we had this mission of going door to door and trying to convince people we're right and they're wrong. And we felt like, oh, this is a mission of saving their lives. And now you feel like you have the same obligation to save these people from this organization. You got to get them out. It's not your place. It's not your place. It is their life. It is their decision. And you are in no position to change them. You can't change people. They can only change themselves. Where you should put effort is definitely your spouse and your children, your household. I think it would be disingenuous not to tell them. So at the beginning, I'm like, well, I have to get my wife out. Kids were still pretty small, so I knew if that would, if my wife gets out, kids will follow. But not telling them, I think, would be wrong. I'm talking about your household. Why? It's just imagine that your best friend, your sister, your brother, whoever, is dating somebody and they're just about to get married. And then you find out that their soon to be spouse has somebody on the side, and you see them making out or kissing somebody else. Would you tell them? Would you tell your friend or your family member, hey, listen, maybe it's not a good idea to marry them? Or would you keep it quiet? What if they're already married and then you find out that their spouse is cheating on them? Would you tell them, or would you cover that up? Would you say, oh, you know what? They're happy. They're happy where they are. And it's not my place to be informing them. Besides, if I tell them, the consequences could be very dire. Because if they divorce, they have 2 small kids. What's going to happen to those kids? Besides, this woman, she doesn't have an employment. She didn't work for the last decade. She's not going to find a job. It's going to be very hard for her financially. She's not going to be able to pick up the pieces. Better if she doesn't know. Is it? Would you like to know that your spouse is not honest? They're lying and cheating? I think I would like to know. I think most of us would say yes. So, yeah, no, we cannot go into the congregation and tell them all, hey, listen, you've been lied to. But I think we have this obligation towards our household. Otherwise, we're lying to them. And it's not about you changing them. It's about you explaining to them why you changed your mind. And what they do with it, it's up to them. So at the beginning, I was kind of pushing my wife towards certain things. And guess what? A backfire effect. She started putting up a really big fight and started being super zealous. And I'm like, this is going the wrong direction. But I realized, oh, you know what? I need to explain to her why I changed my mind in order for her to understand. What she does with this, it's up to her. And for 2 reasons. First, I touched on the blood issue because I said, listen, this issue is extremely important because I don't want to represent you wrong just in case you cannot speak for yourself. So if you are unconscious, I need to understand what is your position on blood fractions, blood transfusion, and all this stuff. I need to understand it because I want to represent you properly. At the same time, I need you to understand why my position changed. And if I cannot speak for myself, I need you to represent my wishes properly. And when we understand each other's wishes, then we're going to have to decide about kids. And I need you to talk to me about this now, not when we're in the operating room, and our kids are about to go through an operation, because we'll be way too emotional and there will be no time for this. So we need to sit and discuss this right now. And at that moment, she realized, oh, you know what? He's not attacking me. He's not trying to change my faith. He is actually caring about me and the kids. And this is something we need to discuss because things could change at any moment. Even though it was still a very sensitive topic and she was scared. It took her like months to discuss this with me. But eventually she did. And guess what? Boom. That allowed her to start researching other things. And progressively, she realized she came to the same conclusions like me. But she has her own mind. She still believes in things I don't, and then vice versa. So, you know what? It's not about me changing somebody. It's about me sharing certain informations that are important, that could be harmful to my wife or kids with them. What they do with it, it's up to them. But not telling them about it, I think would be dangerous. And this is why I encourage everybody to put the best effort for your household. Everybody else, only if they come to you. So if they come to you and they say, "Hey, Jack, why did you leave? Why did you left this organization?" I'll be like, "I'll be happy to tell you if you're willing to listen." But I'm not saying this because I want to change your mind. Remember this. I just want to share with you why I changed mine. What you will do with this information is up to you. And with that, because people feel it, people feel the intentions, right? The people feel like, "Oh, you're trying to change me." No, I'm not. The moment you actually get over this, and it will be more important for you that the person you're talking to is happy than they are out of the organization, then the people will feel it. If they feel that you're just trying to get them out, but you don't care what consequences that will bring in their family and their life, they're not going to listen to you. If they will see, they will feel it, they will actually feel inside their gut that you have their best interests at heart, regardless of what choice they make, then the conversation can begin. But other than that, don't even start. Get rid of this idea that you have to preach to everybody and change everybody's mind. Help your household to understand why you changed yours, and what they do with their decision, it's up to them. All right, that's all what I have. Those are the 10 questions. If you guys have your questions for me, I'll be more than happy to see them in the comments. I see you got no questions right now. You can also join me. There's a link in the comments. You can join if you want. You don't have to show your face. You can just click and join me if you want. But if you have a comment or if you have a question, please post. I'll be happy to answer. Click go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If nothing comes in, maybe next time. Then I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Ciao.